Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. See you again with me, Savirah Jufri, your lecturer in English variety. Today we are going to talk about something interesting, and maybe any one of you have already very familiar with this topic. Can you guess what is it? It is about e-commerce. Yeah, during this pandemic time, I believe everyone will change their way of buying things from offline to online. Why? Because there are many things that affected the traditional way of buying things into e-commerce or online market. Okay, before we start further talking about e-commerce, I'm going to talk about types of e-commerce. Okay, wait a second, I should move this slide. It doesn't work. Okay, wait. Okay, wait, this slide can move. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to talk about type of e-commerce. Actually, there are 7 types of e-commerce. We have B2B. You can see from the screen, there are 7 types. The first one is B2B. The second one is B2C. The third is C2B. The fourth is C2C. The fifth is B2A. The sixth is C2A. And the last is O2O. But at this time, I'm not going to talk the 7 types of e-commerce. I'm going to talk only 4 types of e-commerce. They are B2B, B2C, C2B, and C2C. Okay, let's start from this first type of e-commerce. Like you see from the screen, you see B2B or business to business. Do you have an idea what is business to business transaction is? So, from the illustration, you can see that there are 2 buildings. This is a symbol of 2 business, one company to another company. So what does it mean by B2B or business to business? Is an online transaction done by one company to another company. So you can see there are many examples of this type of online transaction, which is, this is a very high transaction. I mean, this is not only a small transaction between only maybe 100 rupiah into 1 billion rupiah. It can be million because this includes one company to another company. This is the example of business to business online transaction. In Indonesia, you can try to surf the internet by typing busy.co.id. This is one of the company which provides the service or the product to another company. So this business will not end in end consumer. So this is only from one company to another company. So if you have some example which is the transaction only done by one company to another company, it is called as business to business or B2B. Okay, here we go to the next type of e-commerce or business to consumer, or we call it as B2C. So what is B2C? Like its name, business to consumer, this type of transaction is involve one company which sells their product or maybe their service to the end user or to the end consumer. and give you the example here. This is traveloka.com. So traveloka.com built by a company, and this is a company website, right? Which sells their service to book a hotel or maybe to book a flight ticket. And this flight ticket or hotel is booked by the consumer who are willing to book a hotel directly or to book a flight directly. They will use it for their traveling. I mean here, this business is used directly by the consumer. So we call this as B2C or business to consumer, because the company sells their service directly to the end user. And then I'll go to C2C or consumer to consumer. What does it mean? This is quite clear, I think. The consumer to consumer transaction, where this happens when the consumer sells their service or maybe their product to another end consumer, to another consumer. We find in many e-commerce platforms who provide this service, provide an opportunity to consumer to sell their service or maybe their product to another consumer. One of them, I'll give you the example here's Shopee.co.id. Why? Because when you access Shopee.co.id, when you search some stuff, you search some services, you may find it there. You just need to type the keywords and the product will appear. Even a million product will appear. Okay, now we go to the next type of e-commerce. C2B or consumer to business. Like its name, consumer to business. So what we have in our mind right now, an individual try to sell their product or their service into the company. So one of the example of this transaction, consumer to business transaction, is you can try to check it in iStockphoto.com, where this website try to give many chances, many opportunity for the designer or photographer to share their product, their photos, their design into a company. So by joining this, you can sell your product. I mean, the product here can be a photograph or maybe a design. So by joining this, they can connect you into a company, and then when the company sell your buy your design or your photo, this website, the owner of iStockPhoto, will share you the royalty. Okay. You can find consumer to business in any other website online. So consumer to business can also appear in our daily life offline. But because we talk about e-commerce, which is online transaction, so you should find the example which can be found directly or by surfing the internet. Okay, remember, online transaction, not offline transaction. Okay. When we talk about online transaction, we will always talk about quantity. What is quantity? Numbers. So when you have an online transaction, you will buy maybe 1, 2, a kilo, 2 kilos, some, much, or many stuff, right? So when you want to do some online transaction, I'll give you some tips on saying the right quantity when you are having an online transaction. Okay, so here we go. We talk about quantity. Do you know how many types of noun are there? So, like what you see on the screen, Actually, there are two types of noun related to the quantity. There are countable noun, and the second one is uncountable noun. I believe every one of you must be familiar with this. Okay, you can directly try to open your ebook on chapter 3 about website. Oh no, I'm sorry, it is not about website, it is about e-commerce. Wait a minute. Okay, chapter 5. Chapter 5 on page 36 on your ebook. English for Information Technology, level 1. Okay, you can see directly part language, which talking about quantity. There are some expression about language you will find in your ebook. I'm going to talk about it after this. But before we talk about it, I'd like you to see this. You will see how many apples there. Can you count it? How many apples there? 1 apple or 2 apples? And the sugar. Okay, I think everyone here can count the apples directly. You will see 2 apples. It is impossible that you say, I see only 1 apple. Impossible, right? Because there are only 2 apples. Right, you can directly count the apples. 1 apple, and then on the screen, we see 2 apples. There are 2 apples, right, on the screen, and then you can see on the sugar. Do you know how much sugar are there in the bowl? Can you guess how much is it? I bet you can't. Why? Because we need to measure it. We need to count it first by using a standard measurement. So, can you identify the difference? The apples in this screen represent the countable noun, and the sugar represents the uncountable noun. So, can you define what is countable and uncountable noun? Of course you can. So, here's the characteristic of countable and uncountable noun. So, if you see countable noun, you can use a or an. Why? Because countable noun has singular form. What does it mean? If I see 1 apple, I will say it is an apple because it is only 1 apple. I see it is an apple because I can count it directly. And this apple, if I see more than 1 apple, I will change apple into apples. 1 apple, 2 apples. So the countable can be preceded by a or an. Why? Because it has singular form. Or in Indonesian we say ada bentuk tunggalnya untuk countable. But for uncountable can be identified as a single thing. Can you say, I have a sugar, or I have a rice? Can you imagine what does it mean? A rice berarti saya punya sebutir nasi. Apakah Anda makan hanya dengan sebutir nasi? No, right? You will eat a plate of rice maybe, or maybe a kilo of rice maybe. So you can't identify this rice as a single thing because you need a standard measurement to count. If apple, I can see 1 apple, 2 apples because I can count it directly. 1 chair, 2 chairs because I can see there are 2 chairs, there is 1 chair. But it is different with uncountable. I don't know, in a bowl full of rice, how many rice are there in the bowl. But when I measure it, I will know, oh, this is a kilo. Oh, this is a half of kilo of rice. So, it is one of the characteristics of countable and uncountable. Uncountable has a singular form and uncountable has no singular form because it can't be identified as a single thing. And the second one, the plural form, I have talked about this. Uncountable has no plural form. What does it mean? So it is impossible to say that, oh, I have many rices. Impossible, right? Do you know money? Money countable or uncountable? I bet you will say countable. Money is not countable. If you say that the money is countable, we will count the pieces of the money. If you have 5 pieces of money, we don't talk about the value of the money, but we talk about the pieces. If you have 5 pieces of 5,000 rupiah, it means that you have 5 money. But if we say that the money is uncountable, we count the money from its value. So if you have 5 pieces of 5,000, it means that you have 25,000 rupiah. Okay? So, in the screen you will see that the third characteristic is can be counted directly. Like what I give you the example, 1 apple, 2 apples. Uncountable, there is no 1 money, 2 money. Because we talk about the value of the money. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, etc. So you need to measure it or need to read the value first to know the numbers. Okay, in the last I'll give you the example of countable, apple, chair, and pan. And for uncountable, I'll give you the example feeling, like furnace, or maybe weather. Maybe you can say weather, whether it is sunny. We can say that this is uncountable because weather is something that we can't count it directly. And the language, you can say 1 Indonesian language or 2 Indonesian languages. No, because language is uncountable. Okay, now we go to the quantity expressions. Here, when you use countable nouns or uncountable nouns, not all quantity expressions can be used both of this type of nouns. So, what you need to do is to identify first. Is it a noun countable or is this noun is uncountable? So if you know if this noun is countable or uncountable, then you can divine what quantity expressions is the best used with the noun. Jadi yang pertama yang harus Anda lakukan adalah menentukan dulu apakah kata benda ini termasuk yang countable or uncountable. Jika kata benda ini countable, maka Anda harus menggunakan satuan or quantity expression yang bisa digunakan untuk countable. But if you divine that this noun is uncountable, you should use the quantity expressions for uncountable noun. Now, I'll give you the example here. For countable noun, I'll give you an apple, and for uncountable noun, I'll give you rice. Okay. So for countable, we can use 1, each, every, 2, both, several, few, many, and number of. So when you have this type of expression, you should follow them with countable noun. Jadi kalau Anda menggunakan 1, each, every, 2, both, several, few, many, number of, Anda harus menggunakan countable noun. Tidak boleh uncountable noun. It is impossible to say one rice. It is also impossible to say many rices or few rice. Okay? And for the uncountable, you can use some quantity expression like little, much, a great deal of. Jadi, jika Anda menggunakan quantity expression little, much, a great deal of, it is impossible to use countable noun after that quantity expression. You should use an uncountable noun. For example, furnace, rice, sugar, water, oil, and many others. Okay. And the last, there are also some quantity expression that can be used both of countable noun and uncountable noun. Okay. That expression are no, some or any, lot of or lots of, plenty of, and all. So when you find these quantity expressions, you can use both countable and uncountable nouns. Jadi ketika Anda menemui quantity expression no, some or any, lot of, lots of, plenty of, and all, Anda bisa menggunakan dua-duanya. Bisa pakai countable noun atau uncountable noun. Jadi ketika Anda bilang I have no sugar, it is accepted. I have no apple, it is accepted. I have no rice, it is accepted. It is right. If you say I have some money, it is also accepted. I have some apples, it is also accepted. When you say I have a lot of money, I have a lot of cars, they are also accepted. So far, do you have any question about quantity expressions and of course about the type of e-commerce? If you have further question about my discussion today, you can directly send me your question. I will answer it happily. Okay, I think that's it for my presentation today about the e-commerce. I'd like to say very much thanks for everyone who are participating in my class, English Variety. I'm so sorry, maybe during this discussion, I made a many mistake, maybe in operating this computer, or maybe I talked something, slip of tongue. I'm so sorry. You can send your question to me. Thank you very much once again. I hope all of you understand what I am already explained. Thank you very much. Good morning. Have a nice day. Sudah.